Hi, I'm Max Dallows, host of the 2025 Atkins Realis UDG Conference podcasts. Episodes focus on the topics covered at this year's conference. To introduce myself, I'm an assistant modeller at Atkins Realis. I have a passion for communicating the health benefits of getting close to nature. I have a collaborative work approach and enjoy bringing people together to share their experience. I do this through my own podcast called the Maximise Nature Podcast, which looks at the benefits of going outdoors. Our guest for this episode of the UDG Conference podcast is Ben Wilding. He'll be giving an interesting insight into developing integrated drainage strategies across a multidisciplinary system. I hope you find it interesting. Ben, for the listeners, could you tell them a little bit about yourself and one core memory you have?
Yep, thanks Max. So I'm Ben Wilding. I have been with Atkins Realis for the past 11 years, having joined as a graduate, and I now sit as associate engineer in our networks and drainage team. In that time, I've sort of worked on a variety of things. So I started out doing traditional sort of drainage projects on schemes like East West Rail and HS2. Now I focus mainly on SUDS design and integrated sort of water management or greener solutions.
Interesting.
I guess in my spare time, I don't really sit still. I enjoy being out running, wild swimming, and I volunteer as a rugby referee as well for my sins generally. I guess a core memory for me, I was refereeing at the National Schools Rugby Sevens Championships. Large Fijian 17-year-old completely blindsided me.
Oh gosh.
Middle of the main pitch, first minute of the game, and just came out of nowhere and completely wiped me out. So I'm on the deck in the middle of this pitch, being streamed over YouTube, sort of trying to catch my breath and find my whistle to stop the game. So I don't know whether a core memory or something that's burned into my psyche. But
what is the Edinburgh Sustainable Management Guidance, and why is the shift towards places that are more biodiverse, livable and resilient crucial?
Yeah, so the Edinburgh Sustainable Rainwater Management Guide is important because it effectively sets out the vision for integrating green-blue infra, which includes, in Edinburgh's case, attenuation features, source control, but also how we safely manage exceedance flow. There's always a bigger storm, right?
Yeah.
It's subsequently been referenced within the city's design guide and local planning policies. Ultimately, it helps embed it as part of the city's core DNA for how they want to do development. Although that the general ambition was to aid sort of sustainable water management in Edinburgh, it's really helped facilitate new active travel networks through the city and contribute to benefits like urban heat island mitigation, reduce flows into the combined sewer network, as well as sort of linking up sort of 15-minute neighbourhoods and generally making the city a better place to live.
A better place, yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so it's a slow progress. Edinburgh have taken the right view of starting out small and sort of doing some test schemes. They've just finished Craigleith and Orchard Park, which you'll see on some of the sort of presentations and material UDG, which is about sort of improving park space, but also flood risk. This ultimately builds up to the big scheme, which is the SUDS retrofit on George Street, which is the main sort of shopping street in Edinburgh. And that sort of facilitates active travel as well. So it's sort of looking at it from a water lens, if you like, but it's sort of then using that as the sort of special sauce to enable sort of everything else to come together.
Are there any other cities that are leading the way alongside Edinburgh, or is it just Edinburgh in this approach?
Edinburgh is sort of leading in Scotland, I'd suggest. There are a lot of other cities and sort of pockets across the UK where it's developing. Greater Manchester is starting to develop their approach from a green sort of cities approach, linking into their carbon commitments. And then more globally, you've got cities like Philadelphia in the States that have been doing it for much longer. Cities like Utrecht in the Netherlands and Copenhagen in Denmark that are sort of that little bit further ahead, and that we can sort of share some learning.
The Stockport Town Centre drainage strategy is another topic that you're presenting on at the conference. What is the project, and why is it so important for the future of integrated drainage strategy?
Yeah, so the Stockport strategy seeks to replicate some of the success that we've seen with Edinburgh. It really puts water at the heart of decision making in Stockport. So we're partnered up as Atkins Realis with Greater Manchester Combined Authority, Stockport Council, and then Stockport MDC, who are in charge of the sort of regeneration of Stockport. This sort of all links together because Stockport town centre's going through this transition piece. They want to build 8,000 new houses within the town centre and effectively give the whole town centre a bit of a facelift over the next 15 years. They want to sort of change the psyche. It's not just Manchester's little brother. It needs to have an identity
As
of
it always
itself.
is referred to,
Yeah. So it needs to have this identity for itself. It needs to sort of attract people to live there and businesses to invest there. So we're seeing this as a bit of a once-in-a-generation opportunity to really make a tangible difference there. What we're doing, the Stockport strategy, is we're trying to replicate the successes that we've seen with Edinburgh by looking at where water naturally wants to go through the town and then building up an approach based on that. So we end up with sort of green corridors running through the town centre, which then enables active travel to be brought in. We're deculverting some watercourses to sort of reconnect people with nature and with water. And then we're sort of facilitating disconnections to the combined sewers to help sort of manage that problem as well. So we're ultimately trying to look at how do we manage water better and get away from this inbuilt bias that we've got in the UK of, oh, that water's that stakeholder's problem and that water's that stakeholder's. Water doesn't know where the red line boundaries are. So we're trying to sort of do that as best as we can.
With this guidance and strategies in mind, what does the future of urban water management look like to you, and where do you see a challenge lying in the future?
For me, the only real way that we can manage the multiple challenges that we've got in the water industry of population growth, climate change, urban heat, biodiversity emergencies, everything else that we sort of hear about in the news is by pulling all the stakeholders around the table and actually trying to solve these things holistically. Just look at very narrow targets. We'll end up with that solving a little bit of the problem and shifting the rest of it to everyone else. So I think that came out as part of the Cunliffe review, in that currently the water industry is quite fragmented, and lacks that systems thinking. By doing integrated strategies, generally allows stakeholders to get around the table and discuss the interconnectivity between things and try and move away from that approach of that's my water, that's their water. It's collectively our problem, our towns, our water.
Instead of your problem, your towns.
Exactly. And it's trying to make things smart, so as if you're digging up the road, you dig it up once. The last thing you want if you're living in a town centre is dig up the road 5 years for 5 consecutive drainage schemes.
Yeah, that'll be one too many potholes. To summarise, if your SciWem conference pass unlocked 3 takeaways from this conversation that the audience could learn from, what would they be and why? I'd
like people to take away that within the water industry, we're unlikely to be able to change the world in the way that we'd like to without thinking bigger. We need to develop more integrated approaches, and we're not going to get it right straight away. We need to be brave. We need to move out of our comfort zone, share, learn, fail quickly, and improve that approach. And ultimately, I think we need to start thinking more towards what's the overall outcome that we want and need to achieve, rather than what are the individual outputs and targets that we want to follow.
Like the idea of collaboration that I feel like AtkinsRéalis really shows. Ability to sort of have different skill sets on the same bigger team will be really helpful, because everybody will be thinking differently, and we'll get, or at least in my opinion, we'll get to that solution a lot quicker.
Yeah, and I think my experience from working across different teams at AtkinsRéalis is that we're very good at everything, and it's just pulling people together to have those conversations. First of all, it allows us to deliver better outcomes for our clients and for people and planet overall, but also it allows us to learn. I think as engineers sometimes we can be a bit sort of blinkered, and we can go, this is the route, here's how we get there, and we like a sort of very black and white answer, whereas I think we can learn from more of our creative colleagues, landscape architects, master planners, and sort of have more of a workshopping approach where we go, or what's 10 ways that this could happen? Start building things up a bit more creatively, get the creative juices flowing, then we can get into the solving the problem. There's a whole host of other AtkinsRéalis people at UDG this year talking about some really exciting topics, so I encourage everyone to go and check out their podcasts and their papers and presentations as well.
thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I hope you have a great time at the conference.
Thanks, Max.